Welcome back, spooky souls, to another chillin' episode of Ghostly Encounters, where we dive deep into the eerie and unexplained. I'm your host, Carly.
And I'm LD.
Today, we have a spine tingling episode lined up for you as we explore the haunting world of asylums, those foreboding places that hold secrets of the past and whispers of restless spirits.
That's right, haunted asylums have long captured our imaginations and their dark histories and ghostly legends, from tortured souls to chilling apparitions. These locations are a treasure trove of terrifying tales.
And joining us today is our very special guest host, Monyeka. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me so much. I'm so excited to be here and share some ghostly experiences and dive into these haunted stories with you both.
Unfortunately, Riz won't be joining us today, but don't worry, there's plenty of spooky content to keep you on the edge of your seat.
Absolutely. I'll be taking you through the ghost stories surrounding Rolling Hills Asylum, a place known for its tragic history and spine-chilling encounters.
And I'll be dabbling in the infamous Pennhurst Mayflower Asylum, where the echoes of its troubled past still lingered in the halls.
Plus, I'll be sharing some of my own ghostly experiences so that you can get to know me a little bit better. Who knows? Maybe the stories that I share will send shivers down your spine.
And as always, we're back on track after the holidays, ready to bring you some of the scariest tales from one of the top haunted asylums out there. We even touch on Rolling Hills and Trans Allegheny, two locations that are notorious for their terrible histories.
So grab your flashlights, settle in as we embark on the haunting journey together. Get ready for a roller coaster ride through fear, history, and supernatural. Okay, so today we're going to have Carly. She's going to read our story.
Yes, I'm going to read Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. The town of Weston, West Virginia, began construction on the insane asylum in 1858. The project, powered by prison labor, was unexpectedly, it undertook a lot of time. It actually went over budget and over the time that it was given. Construction had to be halted for the Civil War and resume again in 1862. The hospital was built on 666 acres of land. As a common knowledge at the time that pollutants of the cities were a main cause of insanity, supposedly. Fresh air and open spaces would be the most advanced treatment offered to the mentally ill. The goal for Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum was self-sufficiency, complete with a farm, dairy, waterworks, and cemetery. The second largest hand-cut stone building in the world, the Kremlin, was larger. The hospital opened its doors officially in 1864. Per necessary, a separate section for African Americans was completed in 1873. Despite such expansive grounds, Trans Allegheny was designed to hold only 250 people. But that soon changed. By 1888, it held 717 patients. By 1938, it was up to 1,661 patients. There were more than 1,800 patients in 1949. Patient population peaked in 1950 at 2,400. According to 1938 report by medical organizations, the hospital was home to alcoholics, drug addicts, and non-educated mental defects. Maybe they forgot to mention, or maybe it was later years, that the hospital is also haunted and housed by children with Down syndrome, diabetes, disabled veterans with nowhere else to go, people with syphilis before penicillin was on the market, and ones with AIDS who had their own personal apartments on the grounds. As it turns out, fresh air and distance from the hustle and bustle of the cities were likely the kindest treatments offered at this hospital. Frontal lobotomies and electric shock therapy were commonly provided for most of the difficult patients, helping them to calm down, or at least installing enough fear in them that they would comply. Like many giant institutions at that time, overcrowding started to take its toll very early on. The Charleston Gazette wrote a series of exposés about the hospital in 1949, describing poor sanitation and lack of supplies, furniture, lighting, and heating. By the 70s and 80s, things managed to get even worse, despite a relative decrease in patient population. Reports of patients killing other patients passed without investigating them, and female nurses and staff were often assaulted. One nurse went missing only to be found dead at the bottom of the unused staircase nearly 2 months later. Doctors and staff started pulling out all the stops after that. Patients who could not be controlled were now locked in cages. It's pretty clear that no one will ever know the full extent of the patient mistreatment during Trans Allegheny's long history. Records from the hospital are amazingly incomplete. Many patients who checked in never seemed to check out. In the hospital's private cemetery, headstones are also missing. Others are just numbered bricks, leaving no clues about who is actually underneath that earth. Hundreds are said to have died in the hospital, though with such shady record keeping, some think they could have been thousands. According to Andrea Lamb, a tour guide at the now derelict facility, families were often discouraged from contacting their loved ones who were committed to the hospital. They were told if they ever got a letter from them to never even open it. Years of newspaper reports tell a Western residents complaining about hearing patient screams from outside the 666-acre premises. City officials finally decided it was time to build a new psychiatric facility in the late 80s and made plans to turn Trans Allegheny into a small prison. In the end, the hospital closed in 1994 because of concerns about patient treatment, never to open again. Unfortunately, many of the patients who have spent most of their lives at Trans Allegheny were moved to other facilities only to suffer worse mental illness or to die mysterious shortly after. Despite being made a National Historic Landmark while still in operation, attempts to repurpose the building as a Civil War museum were short-lived because of the fire code violations. The mental asylum sat more or less empty for 10 whole years until the state auctioned it off to Joe Jordan, a private citizen, in 2007. After millions of dollars of renovations, asbestos removal, Jordan and his family repurposed the building for concert events and haunted hospital tours. Today, they offer paranormal tours 6 days a week. Popular attraction since the building was featured on several ghost hunting shows. And that is just a little short history on Trans Allegheny.
Trans Allegheny. That sounds terrifying.
Doesn't it? Like, that is horrid.
Like, like low key, I still kind of want to visit.
I know, right? Like, that is one place I don't know. There's a lot of, can't explain it in that one. A lot of darkness.
Yeah.
Still would be fun, right? But
Yeah. Okay, so I have the. I was really nervous about it because I don't have everything together, but we're just gonna wing it. So I have the Pennhurst Mayflower Asylum. So y'all know that we always like to assign people stuff. And I think I have a photo here that I can pull up for y'all real quick. Unless I got the two confused.
Well, it's a couple buildings for this one. The Mayflower is just one of the buildings.
Okay, so I have this one. I don't know, it was like the dark and eerie portion of maybe.
Yeah, that's the main building, I do believe.
So we'll get a little bit more into like the layout. But okay. Hold on here. I'm so sorry. I got so nervous all of a sudden.
It's okay.
Okay, so this is the Pennhurst Mayflower Asylum. It's known for dark history and ghostly legends, and I again will jump more into that because This was established in 1908 in Spring City, Pennsylvania, of course. Isn't like the most haunted places. Always in Pennsylvania. You think that. I always see Pennsylvania as this happy, like, perfect picket fence, like, but they always got like the worst ghosts. I'm sorry, with all due respect. It's true. If you ever watch like scary
We do.
stuff, it's always like from Pennsylvania, from PA, and I'm like, of course.
See, I'm from PA.
Um,
That should say it all right there, right?
That's
yeah.
why she's on the show.
So
She
normally,
knows lots of activity.
just like a PSA, normally, like, I'm like the happiest, like, golden retriever energy, which is funny. Anyways, and then Riss is kind of like in the middle, and then you have Karli, our dark soul. When she tells, like, especially like when we do the lives on the murder stories, like murders, she does not care. So if you
Nope.
have not seen those YouTubes for those murder mystery stuff, you should definitely check it out, because she will go dark so quick, and we're like, this is not what we discussed, Karli.
I'd be like, they decapitated him. The 8 is in there. They're like,
Yeah,
what?
she does not care. She's like, she's like, it's on alive. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Oh my
It's
god.
great, though. You always have to have at least a balance. you know.
Just
So,
don't eat before you listen. You'll be good.
I'm like, so now what's going to happen? Am I going to be like the middle person? I don't know. So, okay. So we are. Okay, so let me see if I can kind of find a picture of the layout.
Yeah, this one has a couple buildings to it. The Mayflower being one of them. I think that was the children's wing. If I wasn't mistaken.
Yes. And so, oh my gosh. So, I mean, inside, there was like a lot of overcrowding. There was neglect. There was a lot of mistreatment. And I'm going to share some stories as well from that. It did close in 1987, and it did carry like a heavy impact on the residents and stuff. So, where did it go? Okay, so I have two things going on. Okay, so I'm going to show you the layout real quick, and then I'll kind of go into it. That way you have a visual. The background music is.
Yeah, we're going to have to cut that, don't we?
Yeah, you want me to cut it?
Yeah. Thank
There
you.
we go.
I can hear you better. Yeah, look how big that is, dude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger ones.
It's like a whole community.
Yes.
That's crazy. I think that would take a lot longer to walk through. I would like literally want to be there for a week just to visit. Like,
They
big
do ghost
community.
tours, especially around October-ish. They do them all year long, but like all year long. But I would go in October, unless this I don't know if some of them buildings got dismantled.
What if they get lonely during February months?
I do believe they disassembled, like they took away some of them because they were dangerous.
Yeah.
And they actually have tunnels underneath too.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so there is a story here that talks about the treatment of what they call Dr. Fear. This was on Ripley's Believe It or Not. So Pennhurst does have a long history of, again, misconduct. For instance, like, one seldom used punishment saw the removal of a patient's teeth if they were labeled a biter. Ugh.
Oh.
First in that sentence.
That's messed up, man.
And I haven't read through this, so bear with me. So no employees' cruelty had been well documented, as that of Dr. Jesse G. Fear. Isn't that funny? The name, like you said.
Yeah.
If that's your real name. Probably. So, the 2 years after being narrowly acquitted for dispensing a dangerous drug, Dr. Fear showcased a human prosperity towards the corruption, and when he casually admitted to Bill Bolini his abdominal methods of behavioral correction, residents, the head of physician of Pennhurst during the production of Suffer the Little Children, Dr. Fear nonchalantly detailed his disturbing practice of downgrading. And let me see if we can go into that a little bit. And there is a photo here if y'all want to see it. But according to Dr. Fear, the punishment was constructed to, quote, offend the dignity of patients with behavioral issues by placing patients with normal or marginally subnormal IQs in wards designed to be profoundly mentally challenged. Dr. Fear's aim was for this to cause a sense of isolation and ridicule for the patient. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I can't talk today. I don't know what's wrong with me. So this would be the ridicule of from the peers, like they just wanted to isolate them, make them feel like poo. It wasn't very good. They were again, quote, humbling them into submission. So this was speaking to a child who was seen as a troublemaker and forced to endure these cruel exploits. Baldini learned that aside from the mental anguish, it also led to developmental regression, which is interesting because they did the study on rats as well. I don't remember who told me, but somebody told me they did like a something with the rats, and they would have like a section of rats where they would just love, cuddle, hold, talk to every time they fed them, especially, and then they had another rats where they would just speak ugly into, and
So
so the mice that were loved they were not aggressive, no, actually, I don't even think it was a petting thing. I think it was like I remember they were speaking to him. I remember how it was speaking to him. Like, so if you tell, like, this group of rats, you're like, I hate you, you're ugly, blah, 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 and just downgrading them, those rats didn't last very long, right? But the ones that they spoke love into, those flourished. So, just a quick reminder, power of speech, what you say, remember, be nice. But because of this, let's see. Another device employed by Dr. Fear towards a misbehaving patient was administering the most painful injection available and wouldn't do any harm to the patient. Callously indifferent to torture, Dr. Fear finished recounting his methodology with a grin. Ew. And he really hit the ceiling over that. It's not fun. He really hit the ceiling. No, okay. It's horrible. I laugh when I'm uncomfortable. So, for this act, Dr. Fear faced 30 unpaid suspension from Pennhurst. Any further repercussions or acts of abuse conducted by Dr. Fear have since been lost to time. And like many others, they rot in the silence of the stench-filled, overcrowding cottages. While some children are afforded the opportunity to go on a picnic and bask in the sun, others lie awake in their beds, shackled like prisoners, punished because they cannot control themselves or their illness. And it was a quote from Bill, Suffer the Little Children. There is a photo here by Johnny Glee. I'm going to show you this real quick. There we go. So the fallout from Bill Baldini, his study was immense. Like, public was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you need more than just a suspension, right? So bridge, we're asking for $4 million for debt structure improvements, additional amenities as simple as toilet paper, subsequently receiving a staggering $16 million. This reform not only affected Pennhurst, but the entire system. So, resulting studies from conducted documentaries wake led to not to release of 130,000 institutionalized individuals in the U.S. alone. Heightened awareness and sensitivity to the plight of a mentally challenged. While, oh gosh, here, let me show you this picture too. I'm so sorry. And this photo is also by Johnny Glee. Let's see here. Okay, so this is just like an idea. Yeah, it's terrible, terrible thing. Okay. So, in a 34 retrospective of Pennhurst, usually in observed conditions, Bill Bologna probably reminisce. There are a lot of people alive today, and they are a lot happier now than they would have ever been if no one ever took a look at Pennhurst in 1968. Ripley's. So then they just, I don't know, it just crumbled. Like, I mean, there's so much more to it, but I have so much more stories. I just kind of really wanted to go over like a little bit of the backstory. Well, and all these photos that are coming up by John. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, sorry, I apologize. So here's the hallway. You know, you look around at the artwork and you can see a piece that says, "Welcome to HE double hockey sticks," and it says, "Quote, talk about going to hell. This is hell." It was just overcrowded. I mean, just to give you like the basic thing, you know, everybody was just so mistreated and it was so horrible. And we gotta take a minute for that. That's and okay, so sorry. And this, while this is the most haunting locations in America, like there have been a lot of paranormal investigations through the years. It's not the most haunted, but it's definitely one of the most haunted. It's just considered the most haunted places due to the horrible history of patient abuse and neglect, particularly towards children, which left a lasting imprint on the building and its grounds, leading to widespread reports of paranormal activity like ghostly apparitions, disembodied voices, unsettling sounds, with many believing the spirits of the suffering remain trapped within the asylum walls. So, I mean, so there are some ghostly experiences. This one's kind of long, but there is a story on here. I'm gonna try and read it as fast as I can. I'm so. If you want to skip through, you're welcome to. Okay, so on a gloomy afternoon, George Muir pulled in front of an imposing brick building. He got out of his car as construction workers passed by him carrying bricks and cement, and he took the whole view in. The massive French-inspired building was now under his control. He was the new property manager, and the first order of business was to get nearly 100-year-old building back into tip-top shape. His eyes scanned through the workers patching up the brickwork, gardeners shaping the landscaping, with a few next week they'll all be joining movers to be asked for. Through the building's beautiful entrance rode squeaky gurneys, ivy bags full of dark, unknown liquids, and mattresses that took the shape of the person forever imprinted into them. So, And as beautiful as it may seem, it does have a dark past. Before George took over, it was also known as Pennhurst State Hospital, School and Hospital. A softer way to say it was an asylum. When Pennhurst officially closed its doors in 1987, it's believed its past is still trapped inside, as you can see. So, as George moved from the front of the building up to the giant windows on the second story, he noticed someone standing inside, peering outside past the curtains. That was odd, he thought. No one should be inside the building just yet. Movers weren't supposed to be here. He pulled one of the construction workers aside and pointed. Is that one of your guys? He asked. The construction worker looked up to the window, clocking the strange figure standing there, looking back at them. No, he shouldn't be. Shoot. George called his partner, asked him to come check out the property with him. Someone may have been squatting. Together, the two men searched through the building. Dripping can be heard echoing in the distance, coming from an unknown source. Paint peeled the walls, including the brightly colored murals from former patients. The two climbed the old staircase to the second floor and got to the room where the person was seen. The knob was basically rested in place and covered in spiderwebs. They pushed open the door, half expecting to find someone in the living room, but they found nothing. The room was full of furniture, but no people. Didn't believe it, but what he saw over by the window, that made his heart drop. Oh my gosh, I'm so scared now. Now my house is too quiet. Now I need like happy music. So there was a giant safety barrier that had been placed around the window, most likely from its days as a hospital. It had been impossible for someone to even touch the window, let alone stand right in front of the glass, and as the figure had been echoing. The two men turned and ran, as they should. And little did they know, stories like this were common here. Scores of people who visited the property were those men, and since have all reported similar occurrences. Figures in the windows, footsteps, disembodied screams coming from nowhere, unexplained cold spots, and echoing laughter of children. See, that's what I keep hearing. The more I read into this, I just keep hearing kids, like eerie children. It's like, oh. But no wonder Pennhurst is often called one of the most haunted in the country. Its time as asylum was full of horrors, death, and torture. So, I'm not going to go into the rest of it, but yeah, because that's pretty long. So, it's just, it's a lot. There was supposed to be a story on a girl in white. I could not find that story anywhere. I was really excited for it. I don't know if this is the same asylum, but I remember one of the guys on that show, I can't remember the show's name, I'm sorry. They would toss a ball, would roll back. I don't know if that's the same one.
That's the same one. Yeah, they were in the basement.
Yeah, I was like, that one's spooky.
Or the lower level.
Yes. But yes, so we are going to go ahead and, because that took forever, so I apologize. So we can definitely go ahead and move on to Miss Monyeka. She is going to go, you're going over Waverly, right?
Yeah. All right, well, let's see. Well, I just wanted to let y'all know, I just want to say that these asylums, that any of them that I've ever heard about that had children, always have one kid that gets bored and likes to play ball sometimes. Like I've heard that in the kid asylums in the areas where they have the children. Like there's always one ghost who likes to play a catch. Like that's definitely something that you see. And asylums were so bad and people were mistreated so badly. I just find that to be something that I notice in most places where children were.
Yes.
Those ghosts of the children still like to play ball like little children,
Yes.
Side note, but yes, I did notice that. So we're gonna go over Waverly Hills. So it was considered to be a sanatorium, right? And when I started to get into just kind of checking it out and things like that, I came across the origin, where it originated from and what it was first. And I honestly, when I had first started to look into it, I thought it was just a sanatorium, but it actually started off as a home. It was a home, and let me see, I have it here. I just want to make sure I say this name right because I don't want to get the man's name wrong because he's the one who actually
You
owned
know,
the land and everything first.
I
Let's
kind of wonder if
see.
we've gone. Have we done Waverly Place? Waverly
We did a little quick ghost story on it that
Oh,
was
I see. Okay, that's why I was like, wait, I have pictures of this. Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
you're good.
okay,
You're good.
so
You're good.
no, yeah, no, yeah, that's good because I'm glad that y'all told me that. So Waverly Hills was considered before it was Waverly Hills, it was actually the land was actually purchased by a man named Major Thompson H. Hayes in 1883, and it was supposed to be a family home. So apparently, there was no school around that area
Yeah.
where the home was. So he actually opened a what is it, a one room school house. So the schoolhouses that you would see where you stay all day just in one class. He literally opened one of those because his daughter, there was no school around for his daughter. So it says Mr. Hayes decided to open up a local school for his daughter to attend. It started with a one room schoolhouse on Page Lane, and he hired Lizzie Lee Harris as the teacher. Due to Mrs. Harris's fondness for Walter Scott Waverley novels, she named the schoolhouse Waverley School. Now, that's how it started, right? That's just what the house and the building and the land was first. Then there was actually a breakout of tuberculosis, right? A little bit after this school had been opened, and seeing the need for what was happening. I think it started. Let's see. Let me just make sure I say this right. Uh, that was around. Okay, so let me just make sure I have this right. It doesn't say when he bought it, but okay. So it's 1883 is when he had bought it and everything for the family home. That was 1883. In the early 1900s, that's when an outbreak of tuberculosis had started. Now this is in Louisville, Kentucky. Just want to make sure so y'all know what we're talking about. This was
Oh,
actually in Louisville, Kentucky, and they considered it to be called. It was called the White Plague. So the outbreak of tuberculosis was something that they would call the White Plague, and the sanatorium was actually supposed to be just like a hospital for what is it like how do they say it for like the beginning stages of tuberculosis. So like when
yeah.
somebody was so when they closed the school down, the 1900s hit, the White Plague happened, so that the building was available. They started to use it for a hospital, but it was only supposed to be maybe 40 to 50 patients that they could have there. But the way that it was supposed to have started was just like if they seen the very first signs of tuberculosis, those were the patients that were taken in. It wasn't very long term. It was more like, we caught it, let's see if we can figure it out, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
it wasn't really meant to be a hospital for anything else but first stages of tuberculosis. And like I said, it literally started with 40 to 50 patients. And then let's see, as the plague continued, people were, passing away. It got worse. There was also some cases of people who had pneumonia there. And I'm assuming because back then that was just one of the things too that was like considered to be first stages, and they weren't sure if it was tuberculosis or considered pneumonia. And so you have the tuberculosis here, and they're like, well, we're seeing this new thing we're calling pneumonia. So it started off with just tuberculosis patients, 40 to 50, and then the plague kept going. People kept dying from tuberculosis, so the need for more patients and more care, and in the area where they were at, where there was kind of like not too much, I guess,
Yeah.
they started taking in patients that had pneumonia. And then the further down the line, I saw that they were taking in, let's see, they started taking in more patients. And then let me just make sure I say this right. To try to contain the disease, to try to contain the disease, It was a 2-story wooden sanatorium. So a lot of the construction was actually made out of wood at first, like a house would be made for a home, you know?
Yes.
It says 20 patients of treatment of early cases is what they were helping with. And then by, let's see, so it opened in the 1900s, 1910 to be specific. And by 1961, they were housing almost 400 patients. Actually in 1924 they had 1924 it was record 400 patients. By 1961 they had probably had a lot more. But considering that the structure had started off as a home and then just got, I guess, slightly bigger as needed for more patients, the care was, it started off with just beginning cases, early cases of it. And then by the time the plague hit really hard, people were passing away, things like, it was like kind of like a hospital does, you know, like we'll take what we can, and then it just kind of like, oh, it's, we're kind of biting off more than we can chew, I guess you can say. And then they also are known because they had what they call the death tunnel. So they actually have a tunnel under the facility where now people consider it to be a very active place where, you know, scary things happen. But it was actually known for, you know, just as the tuberculosis people were passing away, they were being taken out that tunnel. And there was also, they were saying that at that time there was something going on where they were scaring, there was like a rumor in the government or something like that going around where like the air was contaminated or something like that because of the tuberculosis, and that death tunnel was actually considered to be like a safe place to be when there was I think there was a type of, let me see, I have it right here. There was a type of I don't want to say minor war because war is serious, but there was some type of military war going on, and they were talking about, you know, things being dropped into the air. And at a time where I guess something was being dropped in the air, they used the death tunnel for the soldiers, and it was actually fit everybody in the hospital and the soldiers at the one time in that what they considered to be the death tunnel. So it's one of the places that you would consider to be kind of disturbing because that tunnel's known for very, very much activity. Um, they've had ghost hunters, ghost adventures, paranormal lockdowns, and the BuzzFeed Unsolved go and visit there, and they have all pretty much said the same thing. Like the sanatorium was considered to be some place where people went for to provide treatment, you know, for chronic illness, but the illness that started was tuberculosis. And then as tuberculosis got worse, then patients were passing away and they were having to get them out through the death tunnel. There's a lot of death going through there. Then they have this air situation going on, and then they're hiding in there because they don't know if, you know, the patients are going to be safe in their rooms, or, you know, whatever happened with the soldiers that were there at the time, they were all in the death tunnel. Like, definitely lots of things were going on in that tunnel underground. Even though considering it was considered to be a hospital for treatment for sickness, I think tuberculosis is one of those things too that I think is really hard for people to watch people slowly eat away at, you know.
Yes,
But
exactly.
considering it started off as a home, winded up being a hospital, and then kind of just seemed like a hospital that bit off more than it could chew. And then considering the death rate, the tunnel was built, but the tunnel was actually built, and it was built um, out of cement. So it's actually a very hard structure. And the building eventually winded up growing and growing, and as it grew, it was a lot of cement was put into the building. So like the structure of the building is still very strong. You know, windows can break, things can happen, but that cement in the underground of the death tunnel and of the structure, that's something that people are actually well known to talk about too, because the structure is so, like, some places have like fallen in little areas, you know, just from wear and tear of the weather. But the fact that the structure is still up, people are so like um amazed because it literally started off as a little wooden home that just
Yes.
continued to get bigger, and I guess the builders were using cement, and it just stayed. So when you look at the pictures, I mean, you can definitely tell that the structure is very well. Um, Plenty of social media ghost hunters and things like that, paranormal people have gone to check it out, and they explain multiple different experiences. And let me see, I had my list ready. So it says, even though that the Waverly Hills Sanatorium was considered to be a place where people got better or were supposed to get better as a hospital, It's definitely has its own hauntings now that definitely nothing's there anymore, considering people, things like that. The hospital's been closed, everything like that. Um, they have these specific there are specific things that happen when people go, and these are the most like topped things that I've seen. So they say there's a little kid named Timmy that the name came through one of the speakers, the what is the voice speakers for when they're doing
Oh,
paranormal activity, things like that.
the ghost
The
box?
voice box? Yeah,
Yeah.
the voice box, there it is. And, this kid's name is Timmy. He's a young boy who plays catch with the visitors by rolling the ball down the hallways
That's the
and
one.
returning it. But see, this is the thing. Timmy here, he likes to be in the hallways. He's not really known to be in specific rooms. It's like if he sees them in the hallways, he's just a kid who likes to play long, like you can throw a
Yeah.
ball way to the other side of the hallway and he will return it to you. So the name that they got for that ghost was Timmy. There's also a nurse who is a woman who says to have hanged herself in the building and still roams the hallways. Some say that it's a very sinister spirit when they feel her, but some say that they've seen her and have not felt scared. But she is considered to be a nurse that they know that specifically had killed herself in the building by hanging. And then let's see, they have a large shadow figure that climbs the walls and ceilings
Ooh.
of the fourth floor. They call him the creeper because he's definitely creepy. And to see something like that in the moment of just walking around, and of course, I probably would get scared too if I saw somebody crawling. Oh yeah, I seen that girl. Let's see. They also have the doppelgangers, apparitions that some believe are associated with an older um, superstition that people die after seeing their doppelganger. So that's one of the ones that people have said. And
Oh,
then the ghost chef. This one kind of caught me like, what, the chef? Because people do have to eat. It's a figure seen in an abandoned kitchen, who say he smells like he's baking bread. So anytime that they're in the kitchen, sometimes they say that they smell the smell of baking bread, like what your house would smell like after you've baked bread, fresh bread smell.
oh.
And then they have seen an apparition of a man who looks like he's got what you would think would be the shape of a hat for a chef. Let's see, some reporting experiences there also have been slamming doors while visiting, lights in windows when there was no electricity blinking, strange sounds, of course, eerie footsteps in empty rooms, orbs and balls of light. Um, let's see. Oh, also, they've also, when people have gone to visit and they're walking down the hallways, some people have talked about feeling somebody hold their hand, almost like like if we were all going on a group tour or something like that. Some people have felt somebody grab their hand, but they know that it's different because it's not a warm hand, it's a cold hand. But when
Ooh.
they look, they don't see nothing. So there's supposedly a ghost walking around trying to hold hands with people as they're trying to check out the paranormal activity there. So I
I
think this
feel
was
like
one of the ones that I was kind of surprised about because they're considered Waverly Hills Sanatorium was considered to be one of the places that was top number one in the United States of the scariest asylums ever. Now, considering it was a sanatorium, I didn't really see anything as far as like cohesive with the asylums because this was considered to be um, a place where people got better, like a hospital, and asylums were more for people who had mental illnesses. But because it's a place where people were sick, I think they lined it up they lined it up kind of in the same hospital types of when they were checking it out. You know what I mean? So when they say that it's top, when they say it's number one on the United States haunted hospitals or asylums, it definitely has enough activity and it definitely has a lot of things going on. I know that the death tunnel is one of those places that some people, when psychic mediums go in, they do not like to be in that area. So there's definitely activity going on. It was definitely meant to be a home at first, became a hospital, and then as people start to die, of course, they lose their mind. And I think that it kind of caught me by surprise because I really thought it was more of an asylum, uh, as opposed to a sanatorium. But the activity that goes on there, these are just things that I touched up on. I'm definitely sure, and I've read a lot more about more activity, but I remember hearing about that death tunnel, and I kind of took a dive in there, and it was just I've seen the pictures too. There, it's like a big cement.
Did you see the lung, the iron lung that they used to have there for TB?
No.
You gotta Google iron lung from
Okay, I'm
Waverly
gonna check
Hills.
that one out.
It's a creepy machinery.
Iron. Ooh.
Yeah, they used to put people in there to try to combat the TB, have them breathe
Oh,
like
that's right. No,
easier.
no, yeah, yeah. It's like
Yeah,
a big thing there. Like, yeah, yeah. No, okay, yeah. No, now that you say the iron lung, I was thinking about it. I know what you're talking about. It's like a
yes,
contraption almost, right? That they would lay them in, and then they would just have to
yes.
be there. And yeah, yeah, yeah. I have
Yeah,
seen that.
that's from Waverly too. Yeah.
You know what that reminds me of? I know this is totally off crazy, but have you ever seen the movie Crybaby?
Yes,
Where the
with
mom
Johnny
goes
Depp.
in and she's like, "I've got an iron lung." Yes.
Yeah, with Johnny
Yes.
Depp.
I've got because she even says it. She's like, "I got tuberculosis."
Oh my
My kids asked
god.
me about that a while back, and I told them that wasn't as nice as it looks
No.
when it was happening to people. So, but yeah, so I think that Louisville, Kentucky, just and then when they closed the hospital in Waverly Hills in 1961, the patients that were left in that hospital actually got taken to the Hazelwood Sanatorium in Louisville. So I wonder if we should check out that one too. The
We just need to
Hazelwood
go on
Sanatorium.
like a ghost tour. You know what I mean? Like, just take a
Yeah,
month and just
go check it all out.
yeah, and then come. Oh yeah, and then I was telling you that last night. And I was like, and then we could just go to the spa
Yeah,
after all that.
definitely. We're gonna need that afterwards.
I'll be like this. I saw ghosts. I saw ghosts again. I saw a solid ghost the other day, but he
Oh
wasn't a
yeah.
lunatic. I think he was just a nice old man. It was this older black gentleman, and we went to the hospital uh, for Brandon stuff. So we're old, and it's so early, and we're running like hospital doors. Just again, I seen this gentleman just sitting there, and I get to the doors, and he's just gone, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I look in the glass doors to see if maybe he got in without me, because they lock the doors and it's freezing cold in Texas. And why do I have on leggings that have holes in them? I don't know. They were cute, but anyway. So and then I was like, kind of turn around, I'm like, huh. He was very solid, but not creepy, just very solid. So it's interesting when you see them that solid. You think they're real. As long as they don't look like me, I'm good. That's when I've been tripping. Right, Karli? She's like, yeah. If you don't know, you got to go back in the episodes.
Yeah.
So I think Karli.
Yes.
All right.
I got Rolling Hills. Now, this place is about 45 minutes from where I live. I'll give it away a little bit. It's in East Bethany, New York. I've been to this one. I can tell you now, before I start the story, when I stood in front of this place, it felt so dark and like it felt so heavy on your chest. And that's before you even walk in. Just to warn everybody who goes there. They do have ghost tours. Yet again, I would go. It's worth it. Just cleanse yourself after. Now, this place was also a poor farm, but it was more of an asylum. Now, they stuck lunatics in with poor people or older people that didn't have a place to go. So this had a mixture of people. It was built in 1826. And then they also had children in this one with lunatics. Now, I'm going to go over some of the residents that are still there. The few tragic stories coming out of Rolling Hills is one, this is so sad, is about Roy. He had giantism. He stood over 7 feet tall when he passed.
I have him.
And he
I
was
have a
supposed
picture
to
of him.
be, yes, he's supposed to be, he was so gentle with the kids. Like, the kids loved this guy. All he had was giantism, and he was sent there as a boy. He grew up in this place.
He was just tall.
Yeah, he was just tall,
Wow.
and they got rid of him. He was actually the son of a prominent New York banker. He was set to live at the asylum when he was 12 years old. So he grew up there. He died at 62. So he lived there for 50 years, guys.
Wow.
50 years before he passed. He loved opera music. He was I'm going to stress this enough. He was a kind soul.
Yes.
Today they see him all over the walls. The tall man. He's still there. You know, that was his home for 50 years. And then now let's get into some of the terrifying stories. Gotta go there, right?
Man.
Um,
I'm like, I'm
sorry.
trying to find this picture. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, you got to see this picture. Where is it? I just saw it. I swear.
Then you have, well, we still can see the picture, but we have also Nurse Emmy. Was known for her absolute cruelty. So we go from a kind soul to a narcissist nurse. She would literally, the inmates and staff would fear this woman. Okay? She was even rumored to do satanic rituals and black magic on the residents in there. This is just rumored. Nurse Emmy still walks the halls as visitors hear crackle-like laughing coming from the infirmary. Is that? Yeah, see how they were lined up, back to back to back to back. That's so wrong. She is also mischief, like she'll touch you and stuff as you're doing the tour. Another hotspot in the asylum is known as Hattie's room. Located on the first floor in the east wing, the room has captured voice recordings of an elderly woman yelling "hello." It's believed that her voice is the former patient Hattie, who was blind and used to yell "hello" all day and night to get attention from the staff nurses. Like I said, not all these people were lunatics.
Yeah.
You got to remember that. And that's the sad part. This is before Social Security was a thing. They needed somewhere to go. Rolling Hills was also a farm. They cultivated their own food. They also had their own crematorium. And they also had their own cemetery. And they actually have, yet again, a lot of them had the death tunnels due to the fact it would keep the death away from the patients. Seeing them, getting willed out.
Getting them all riled up about it,
This one has a tunnel from the main building to the crematorium. Just to let everybody know. So whoever didn't get buried might have got cremated. A lot of these people, they were nowhere to go after death. Nobody picked them up.
Yeah.
Now, downstairs is a psych ward. Solitary confinement. Locations in the asylum are some of the most sinister, iron bracket, out of the cement walls. So when you walk in, you'll see iron for your hands. So imagine sitting like this all day and all night, all because you misbehaved. And that could be kids, adults, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Nurses did that so they didn't have to put up with them, let's just be honest. Sharon explains the horror of this, was always just criminals who were being locked up there, if you want to believe that or not. Yet again, there's not what the pictures show. They show innocent people. Like, these people weren't lunatics that were locked up or criminals. Alzheimer's, epilepsy, Tourette's, Asperger's, or even the unruly wife was sent there. Say you backtalked your husband. Your butt was sent there. Back then, a man can't control his wife. He would send her there to the poor farm to work. That is just not cool. And then they would get locked up too. Or they would get the iron bit. Just cool them down. The morgue. When you walk in the morgue, they have an outfit hanging there, by the way, that moves. Just to let you all know when you do the tour. The morgue, of course, is another hotbed for ghostly activity at the asylum. In this room, there is a large embalming table, 2 large refrigerators, a huge steel sink. The morgue is rife with paranormal activity to this day, such as items being moved, voices being heard, and visitors even report being shoved down onto the cold tile here. Like shoved. You feel a shove.
Oh.
Not all the ghosts are good ghosts. You gotta remember that. Some had evil spirits. Now, this was home away from home for most of these people. They went there and they passed away there. They never got to go home again. And we had kids that grew up there and never left there. It's the only place they knew were these 4 walls. Imagine the energy they left behind. And then some kids did die of TB there too, and other communicable diseases. There are many theories of why this asylum is haunted. But some of them lost their parents, their homes, their spouses. They built relationships and friendships in the asylum itself. That was their family, their loved ones were in that place. So, yet again, that is one of the theories why some people just don't want to leave, like the guy with, like the giant, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was there for 50 years.
50 years is a long time.
It is. To see what he had to see, too. Now, when I say they cultivated their own food, they did. When you walk, this place is not massive by any means. But it is. It is and it isn't. It has floors.
Yeah.
When you walk to this place, if you ever get to go, I want you to go on the side where the corn is. Especially if you go in summer or spring, which I would because it has no heat. When you walk, I want you to stand, and this is the feeling I got, but I want you to stand right where the corn is and face the asylum. Look up to the 3rd to 4th floor and just imagine being trapped in there for 50 years. Never coming outside unless you're gardening or doing a chore. There really wasn't too much of a playground for these children. I just want you to imagine being locked in there with criminals too. Mentally ill, disabled, a lot of Alzheimer's, a lot of sundown syndrome, a lot of people that just weren't supposed to be mixed together.
Yeah, it seems like that place was like a free-for-all.
It was. And the beds. People would say they would have accidents and have to sit in it all day. Because the nurses couldn't do it all. Like, these beds were basically stacked. So they couldn't get to you. If they did, you were in a straitjacket on the floor. For them minor incidents. Like, the feeling in this place, you want to say it's so warm, but it's not. It's cold and dark. And then when you walk in the cemetery, yet again, you ain't going to see too many names. You're going to see numbers. Because that's all these people were to the government. Oh, that's the face in the window?
Yeah, I wanted to warn you, but there wasn't time.
But, like I said, if you get a chance, there's been 1,700 documented deaths in this place. That's the documented ones. So, there's probably hundreds and thousands more that were unreported. It's the 2nd most haunted site in the United States.
Man.
Yeah, see, they were lucky to get one of those.
Yes.
This is
You were lucky. Yeah. Also, you had paupers' graves there. They're just got stacked on each other. But it was horrible. Like, it was known as a poor farm, poor house. Asylum, lunatic asylum, home for the elderly, children's home.
Yes.
In a small community. So, and it's in the middle of nowhere. You have maybe a house next door, which the owners live near it. So if you do want to take a tour, I'm going to urge you to get a hold of them through email. They're very quick in response. Do not break in. Do not break in this one. It's not right to do. They put a lot of money into restoring this place. We would like it back for future generations to see how far mental health has come. With all these locations, I would like to just stress, make an appointment, do it the right way, do not break in, do not vandalize. Yeah. Yes. Give that money back to these people to put back into these historic places. That's all I'm asking you.
Now, come on, it adds some fuel.
Sorry.
It was perfect in the intro.
But that is basically Rolling Hills. And if you get time with all 3 locations, I urge you all to look them up, do some studying, and just check them all out. These places are historic. We came a long way with mental health, But I would like you to take a step back and look at lobotomies. Like, look where we came from.
Yes.
Mhm.
You know? That's all I ask.
Maybe this summer
Can't repeat it.
Maybe this summer we'll put together a tour and we'll just all go together and we can see the views from it. I mean, I will run a little bit, but I won't be in the dark this time. So it's
Mary, let's
Oh.
not talk too ahead.
Roomba's
Don't
coming
get
out,
too ahead of
guys.
yourself.
Roomba's coming out. Just to warn y'all.
for backstories. Get on that YouTube.
I think that would be a good live for us to take
Yeah.
a camera with us and go, because I kind of accidentally fell into a house that was an asylum by accident. Like, my thing
Oh.
was, because I'm so spiritually sensitive, I was like, if I ever do it, I have to do it on camera because I know it's going to be a serious thing. You know, this is going to be something people are probably going to want to watch. And so I kind of kept myself out of the asylums and went to the haunted houses with Mary Moore. But we had always talked about going to the asylums. Well, my brother moved into this house in Austin, and it was like, I think it was a fourplex apartment, right behind the Lamb's Candy Shop in Austin, Texas. If you guys have ever been there, to the Lamb's Candy Shop on, I think it's Airport Boulevard. Yeah. So we were helping him move in, and it's a fourplex. So he's at the top. There's 2 apartments at the top, 2 apartments at the bottom, and it seemed like a pretty nice building. So I'm like, okay, just taking stuff in or whatever. And then I start to hear something that I know nobody else is hearing. And it almost sounds like somebody's running up and down the stairs, because there's one set of stairs here and another set of stairs like the opposite way up, and there's one here. But they both meet at the top. These stairs go to this apartment. These stairs, you got to curve around to my brother's apartment. So I'm coming up these stairs and I'm hearing somebody run up these stairs. So I'm thinking it's a kid or something. So I'm trying to move out the way, and then I never see anybody. So as I'm helping him move in the house, I'm hearing random things, and I'm like, okay, I know my natural brain and I know my spiritual brain, something's going on here, right? So I start just helping him unpack, and I'm getting things and in and out, and I just keep hearing like a little, it's supposed to be what I would have thought would have been a little kid running like back and forth, but the heaviness of the stairs, it seemed like maybe anywhere from a 15-year-old to a 21-year-old, because they're the heavy steps. And I'm just like, I'm starting to get a little irritated, because I'm like, I'm continuing, my brother's door's open, I'm unpacking his stuff. I'm looking, and I keep looking, and he's got 2 kids that are already teenagers, so I know they're not playing because they're all unpacking with me. And I'm like, I'm getting a little irritable, because I'm like, who the fuck's running, excuse me, guys, but I'm a little irritable at the time. So then I tell my brother, like, I need a break, I'm going outside for a second. He's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. So I go outside, and I'm taking the air, and I'm like, okay, I know I ain't crazy, but I know what I'm hearing, And then I just felt like somebody was watching me, and I was looking up at the stairs, because I'm at the end of the stairs outside. My brother comes down, he's gonna smoke a cigarette, and he's like, hey, are you okay? And he sees my face is a little pale. He's like, you look like you're gonna throw up. And I'm like, I don't know, I just feel weird. He's like, what do you mean? I said, do you know who owns the house? Do you know the owners? He's like, well, the guy is my landlord. Yeah, I know him. I'm like, okay. I was like, did he say anything ever happened into your house? Did you ever ask him? He's like, what do you mean? I said, well, I know, I keep hearing somebody running up these stairs. Like, if it's a kid, I said, I don't see nobody, and my energy level is just kind of getting overwhelmed, and I don't know what's going on, but I feel kind of weird in here. He said, oh, well, I didn't tell you. I probably should have told you before, because my brother knows I'm spiritually sensitive. He's like, this used to be an asylum.
Oh.
You should have seen my face. I was like, how dare you? Like, my brother grew up with me. I was the crazy sister who had crazy voices in her head. The crazy sister, right? The one who's too spiritual. And I was like, you didn't think to tell me that this was an asylum at one time? And I'm panicking now, because now I'm like, okay, now I get why I'm having the crazy thoughts of these things, and I'm hearing the thoughts and things of the spirits, So I'm hearing somebody running around like they're a teenage kid with a wild mind, just like over extremely hyper mind, and the eerie feeling, just draining me. And so I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, well, this was actually a very small 7 to 8, maybe 10 patient thing. He's like, but the back part has been made into a storage room for anything that these 4 houses may need to have fixings. He's like, but the guy did tell me sometimes we have flickering lights, sometimes we have people running up the stairs that you don't hear. So my brother asked him, well, what is that supposed to mean? He goes, well, I want to let you know this used to be an asylum. This used to be a privately owned asylum. So like people who had a lot of money would put their
Oh, okay.
child or their spouse, whatever there, but they had to have a lot of money because it was such a small asylum. He's like, it's not, he goes, if you go back, it almost got grandfathered in. He was like, but it didn't. He said, because it winded up, they closed it down. The owners before, the guy who owns it now, didn't want to continue care like that. He was like, this is, I guess, 10 patients, maybe 7 to 8, 10 patients may have been enough, and they didn't want to do it anymore, private owned or anything. So they're like, we're
Yeah.
just going to sell the building. So now my brother, and he's never left. I mean, I've never seen
Yeah.
any other problems, but sometimes when I'm there, he's right. The hallway lights will flicker,
Oh,
or when I go visit, sometimes I'll still hear that running teenager, and it's just. I'm like, if this is all I get, I'm perfectly fine because I don't want anything else coming out of these
yeah.
crazy walls, because you never know what
Yeah.
happens. But I remember that when my brother told me that, I could have punched him in the face. Like, how dare you
Oh,
not tell me something like this, you know?
it's
I
like,
He had to see me literally about to throw up because my energy was off, you know?
yeah. I mean, it's
Definitely.
if he didn't tell you, he should have known that you're gonna find out the hard way.
Yeah.
He could have eased you into it. How
Could have
rude.
prepared me. I would have been prepared.
But
Yeah.
also at the same time, it's kind of confirming that you weren't crazy. you
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
that teenager needs to slow down. He's
It
probably
was almost
tired.
like he was just bored, so he was just like running through. I'm pretty sure the building was a lot more open, like had a hallway and things, but
Yeah,
it seemed like they cut half of it off and then half of it was made into those 4 rooms, you know?
yeah,
And they're literally just a one bedroom big apartment, they're pretty big. So I just was just it seemed like that kid had been running for years, and trust me, he kept going. So it was definitely irritable for me to be hearing it going back and forth, and I was like expecting a child or something.
you're
And then you
like,
get the eerie feeling like, what the hell's going on? What's going on? The first thing you want to think is logically, and then you're like, okay, but then there's a spiritual realm out there.
yeah,
So then you got to start thinking on what was here. Is it gonna hurt me? All those things start going through in your mind.
yes,
I
yeah.
definitely got drained just because I was just overwhelmed with how hyperactive that thing was.
It's like if you slow down, sir, you can go
Yeah.
in
He's
light.
like,
Like,
I'm literally stuck in this for eternity. Yeah, it definitely was an energy taker. So I don't like to be surprised like that just because you never know. Like
exactly.
people have holding hands. Some people come and like to pop you upside the head.
I've noticed like 8 times out of 10, like, with, like, ghost stories and stuff, like, if it's haunted and, like, I'll see it and all that, but, like, okay, particularly, I was at this cave and I was like, I could feel something around me, but it wasn't till right before he said it that I felt a handprint right on my back, and I was like, "Ah!" You know? So, I'm like, it's always right before when people tell a story, and I'm like, "Ugh, ugh, ugh." But anyways, sorry, I don't know why I said that. Yeah, we are running out of time,
Yes.
so we will see you. We will go. So, new schedule. If you're listening, we are going to go back to our weekly podcast and our weekly live. So, catch us on Fridays, and stay out of trouble. Like, really, and I'm not saying like rebuke it, really, because every time I tell somebody stay out of trouble, they get into trouble. No, really, stay out of trouble. Okay.
Don't forget to
Schedule your visits.
share,
Yes.
subscribe, and have a blessed be day, guys.
Let's
Blessed be.
be.
Bye.
Hi
Bye.
guys.